Hi everyone, earlier this week Fiona, who is at Jennings644, very kindly sent me some samples of her homemade glimmer mist, and these are the colours that she sent me. There's Fancy Grape and Vintage Bronze Delight, Emerald Leaf, there's a Plush Rose Pink, a Sea Blue Mist, a Banana Gold and Copper in it. And she asked me if I'd try the inks out for her and let her know what I thought of them. So I've done a little project that I'm going to share with you today and hopefully explain the process, how I made it as well. So the two inks that I've used for this, I've used the Vintage Bronze and the Fancy Grape. And this is what I came up with using those. It's a vintage tag, okay? And I'm going to talk you through the process of how to make this. So the first thing I did is to take some white cardstock, and this was cut at 3.5 by 5 3/4, which is roughly 9 by 15 centimetres. And then I started to ink it in Dusty Concord, which I've already started. And the other colour that I'm going to do is Vintage Photo. So just randomly sponging the ink all over the card, using a circular motion until you're happy with the intensity of the colour, and also until the inks have started to blend together. Okay, once you've finished with the two inks, you might want to go back to your first ink just to make sure that they are going to actually blend through. Okay, once you've achieved the effect that you're happy with, the next thing I did was to take the glimmer mists, the homemade glimmer mists that Fiona sent me, and I'm starting with the Vintage Bronze first and lightly spraying over the areas where I inked with the Vintage Photo, and then I'm taking the Fancy Grape and applying that over the areas where I had the Dusty Concord ink. And then I left that to dry. So I'm going to put that on one side. And I did find that with these sprays it is best to let them air dry rather than to heat set them. So this is a piece now that's been air dried, and you can see the glimmer on that piece. And the next thing I did was to take a Linen Effects stamp, which is by Stampin' Up, and apply some Vintage Photo to that, and just randomly add a background. I'm not too fussy whether it stamps it all or there's some patches left on there or not. And then the next thing is to stamp it again, this time with a collage background, and I'm going to do this in Walnut Stain. So just ink the stamp up until you're happy with it. Again, don't need to be too fussy because it is a vintage look and it's meant to be distressed. Okay, so that's the background so far. The next thing I did was to take my Tim Holtz distressing tool and distress the edges all the way around. And this helps your ink intensify around the edges as well as give that worn, distressed vintage look to it. So then I took the Vintage Photo, no sorry, it was the Walnut Stain actually, took the Walnut Stain and applied that around the edges there. Then once that was finished, I then added some of the distress paint just randomly around the edge areas. So I'm going to put a little bit there, some down into here. I'm not going to bother too much along the bottom because it obviously has the lace and things on the bottom, but I'm going to come a little bit into there and a little bit at the top part there. And again, you need to let that dry. And once it has finished drying and all the cracks appear, you want to spray it again with the grape coloured spray. Okay, so here's a piece that has been dried and the cracks are there and it's been resprayed. So the next thing to do now, I'm going to take my punch, which is, I think it's a Tonic Studios punch, and it has both the side for doing tags and the other side is for making ticket stubs as well. Okay, and then I was also fortunate enough to be given some old music paper, again by Fiona, and I've used this as well in this tag. And what I've done is to ink it up in the same colours, so a piece can go at the bottom. I'm going to have a piece across there, and this piece will just show you how I inked that. Took the walnut stain just lightly, and then I took some of the Dusty Concord as well and did that a little bit randomly in the middle and some on the edges as well, just to give it some definition. Okay, so then those pieces need to be adhered down. I'm going to try and do this very quickly. And just line them up where the music score actually looks like it's straightish into the bottom piece. And there's the last piece at the top. Somewhere there, I think. And then you want to take a pair of scissors and turn it over just to trim off the excess. And you're left with your background almost complete. Then the next thing you need to choose is an image to go onto your tag. In this case it's an image from Paper Whimsy, and I'll put the website on the screen for anybody who's interested in obtaining those images. Okay, so I'm going to place the image where I'm happy with it, which is just about there. Okay. And now I'm going to stop where I am and I'm going to start a part 2 so I can show you the trims and the flowers and all the other embellishments on this tag. So I'll see you soon. Bye!